Hello, everybody. You're watching and listening to Fast Money Football on the Parlay. It's Albert Vartanian alongside my co-host for today, Sarah Pararia. So big news on Merseyside with Liverpool through to the Champions League quarterfinals despite losing to Inter Milan. We'll get into that. But across the city, it's more bad news for Everton, who could become the first Premier League team to be deducted points for breaching FFP rules. Oh, and in case you forgot, Everton just 1 point out of the relegation zone. Plus, we'll tee up today's matches, including the big ones in the Champions League. Real Madrid, PSG, massive matchup. It's Albert Vartanian, Sarah Pararia, and Fast Money Football starts now. All right, Sarah, massive result for Liverpool going into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Not the result they wanted in the game at home, losing 1-0 to Inter Milan. Inter actually played pretty well in that matchup up until Alexis Sanchez was sent off in the second half for a second yellow. A lot has been talked about here whether or not he should have seen a second yellow. I think it was. He went a little high on Fabinho. It was through a follow-through. He got the ball first, but he still finished his tackle on the player. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I hated to see it because I was right after that beautiful Lautaro goal. And I was, like everyone, I think we're all so surprised that Inter were leading that game at Anfield. But I think the issue was that, and we spoke about this off air, but it was the initial tackle on Thiago because that could have been a red card. In fact, that probably should have been a red card. So I think La Rose was thinking, okay, you already have one. It was pretty brutal. We're going to give you the second one. It just sucked because, in my opinion, the second one was very weak. Fabinho played into it so much. And also just knowing the player Alexis Sanchez is, I really felt for him. I'm pretty sure I found that he's only had 2 red cards in his career. He's not an aggressive player, and it sucks when it's a player that, isn't, normally aggressive, normally collecting cards, and especially a player that was so important for this Inter team. I wish it didn't happen because I think the game could have gotten really interesting. But yeah, I think it was all just based on the initial tackle on Thiago because that was brutal.
I was surprised to see Sanchez start. I figured it was going to be Dzeko and Martinez based on what we saw at the weekend when they won their matchup 5-0 against Salernitana. But Sanchez, probably up until that point, was their best player. So for him to be sent off in that manner, obviously was disappointing. And I'm going to say it right now, I'm the kiss of death. Yesterday, I'm talking about Virgil van Dijk and his incredible unbeaten run at Anfield. And of course, they end up losing. It wasn't the best performance from Liverpool. We haven't seen some good ones. I mean, against West Ham, I thought they were lucky to get all 3 points in this matchup. If Sanchez wasn't sent off, I think we might be having a different discussion today.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing I would have loved to see. I mean, even if it had gone into extra time or penalties, like I would have just loved to see like Liverpool kind of struggle just because they are so dominant right now in, the UCL and the Premier League, and they just won the Carabao Cup that I would have liked to see it. Also, I don't think, like I said, I don't think anyone assumed that Inter was going to win this game. So for them to kind of, really like get together as a team. Alexis, was amazing yesterday. Lautaro scoring again. Like this is so important for them. I mean, at least the one thing I think they can walk away from this game and say, we really held it together. But I do feel like we missed some potentially really exciting football because of that red.
There were some really good performances actually on that Inter Milan side. Sanchez, as you mentioned, Martinez was good until he got hooked. Brozovic, I thought, was excellent in the midfield. And Skriniar, the center back, he was great as well. Inter have a lot of good players, and I think they're going to be a good team moving forward. It's just going to take some time for them. Jurgen Klopp, back on the Sanchez yellow card, he said Sanchez was lucky he didn't get a red card in the first half. So he's agreeing with you, Sarah. But moving on to the other side of Merseyside, big news. So the Daily Mail, I'm going to try and unpack this one. I'm not the best guy when it comes to numbers. I'm going to be completely honest with you. When you start throwing out these numbers and breaching rules and contracts, you kind of lose me. But this is important information that we need to bring to you guys. So the Daily Mail, which is a publication in the UK, broke the story this morning that Everton could be in breach of financial fair play, and that can result in either a fine or a point deduction. And like I mentioned, let's not forget, they're at the bottom of the Premier League at the moment, at least fighting to stay up in the Premier League. So the story goes as this. Everton recorded combined losses of over £260 million between 2017 and 2020, which in ordinary circumstances would represent a clear breach of Premier League rules, which states that clubs are only permitted to lose a maximum of 105 million pounds over 3 years. So that's a lot more money. So that's where the breach is. So any clubs in breach can be charged at the end of the season. And like I mentioned, it's either a fine or a points deduction. What a bad week for Everton. They lose 5-0 to Spurs, just a point above the drop. Obviously, this is going to weigh on the club. But when it comes to Frank Lampard and the players and the product we see on the pitch, is this pressure going to affect them much more than we think?
I think so, 100%, because there's this uncertainty that, they don't really know what's going to happen right now. They don't know what the next steps forward are going to be. And that looming thought of, can we just lose a point? Can we just, get a point basically taken from us when we don't have points to spare is extremely daunting, especially for the players because they're, going to try and do everything they can to stay in the Premier League. But I mean, it's just one thing after another with this team, and it's they're in a really bad state right now, and I couldn't see it not affecting Frank or the players.
Yeah, so we don't know what the point deduction, how many points that could be. We'll have to wait and see. But I think this definitely adds so much more pressure because now, if you're Frank Lampard and those players, you already need points. You already need results. Now you're going to want to tack on a few more just in case this happens. I'm not sure if that's going to play into his thinking, but this is something that's going to be in the back of the mind of the players and the team. And I kind of really feel for Everton fans. We kind of joked about it, I think, yesterday, how, we kind of want to see Everton go down because you don't see this happen very often with big clubs getting relegated from the Premier League down to the Championship, but not in this way. This would be a horrible way to do it because this is out of the hands of the manager. This is out of the hands of the players. They can't do anything about this. The only thing they can do is try and go out there, pick up points, and win matches.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like you said, like you want to see them go down because they couldn't get their football together, not because they were, breaking these financial rules that have nothing to do with the players or the coach.
Yeah, not good for Everton Football Club. But it's time, unfortunately, to move to the Champions League. Not unfortunately for us, but unfortunately for Everton fans. We won't be talking about your team anymore. First game, Manchester City minus 650 taking on Sporting plus 1600. I don't think we really need to get into this matchup that much. Manchester, they're up 5-0. They beat Sporting 5-0 in the first leg away to Sporting. This one being played in Manchester. I'd expect to see a lot of changes from the City side. I mean, Pep is going to rotate. Kevin De Bruyne is probably not going to be in the lineup, as he mentioned in his press conference, because I think he picked up a bit of a knock in the Manchester derby. We might see a player like Raheem Sterling, who didn't feature in that matchup. So a lot of changes could be coming, not only from City, but maybe Sporting as well, knowing that they're out of this tie and there's no reason to risk any first-team players. They are still somewhat in the hunt for the Portuguese league. But for me, this is kind of a pass.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you know what the thing is though is with the City lineup, I don't know how much of a change we're going to see. Like you said, probably Kevin De Bruyne for sure because of that knock. But Guardiola is not known for making like several changes. He finds what works and then he slowly will integrate, one or two. But I don't know. I could see him putting, 8 or 9 of the same players just because like I feel like he has this, you never know what you're going to get in football. And he's just like, I just need to make sure that it's working. This is working. Let's keep it going. But I actually think, like you said, we're going to see a lot more changes for Sporting because yeah, they're 6 points behind. They know they're out of this UCL. So they're 6 points behind Porto in the Primera Liga. And so I think they need to focus all their attention on that because they still have a good chance of, getting back up there and winning. So I think for them, you're down 5. It's not going to happen. It's going to be your last UCL game of this season. And, play the young guys, switch it around, see what works so you can use that for, a league game next week.
So back to City, you really don't think Pep's going to make changes? Because I think he probably has one eye on the Premier League. He's in a title race. As much as people want to just give him the crown right now, he really is. They have Palace coming up on Monday. Then they have a FA Cup quarterfinal against Southampton on the Sunday, and then Burnley, and then Liverpool. I think those games are much more important than the matchup that they're in now. I mean, for Sporting to come back and score 6 goals, and at 6 goals, if City can't score in this leg at all, I think he'll be comfortable putting out a B squad, if you will.
I 100% agree. I'm just looking at the way Pep has coached in the past, and it's not,
Right.
normal for him to do a thing. But like, I think it makes sense. Everything you're saying, most coaches would. Let's see. Maybe he will. And like, honestly, it would probably be very strategic for City to do this. But I don't know. I still think we're going to see a lot of the starting 11. starting this game today.
Are you staying away from the betting market on this one?
I mean, the odds are just so in City's favor that is there much of a point? I mean, you could just go for the crazy ones and say, they're going to score four, or Raheem Sterling's going to get a hat trick. Like, but I don't see much value in this game because it's already predetermined.
Yeah, I think the best bet is definitely no bet at all. But if you do want to throw some money on, I would stay away from the winners market. I'd stay away from goal totals. Try and find a City attacker that's starting that you like, that has decent odds to score, and sprinkle just a little bit of money on him. If Sterling starts, I think he's at even money to score anytime. I think that's pretty good value considering they are at home and much better team than Sporting. All right, to the big one. Real Madrid at home, plus 150. Fantastic odds, by the way. They were at plus 170 when this opened, taking on PSG, who are at plus 170. The first leg, PSG won, if you do remember, 1-0. Kylian Mbappe, 94th minute goal. A big shocker to this Real Madrid team, who tried to keep PSG at bay throughout the whole game, but their performance wasn't very good. A lot of people calling it cowardly how they set up against PSG in that first leg matchup, because they went there and sat back. I think they really hope for the 0-0. The 1-0 is still fine because they still have to go home today and win that matchup. What did you make of Real's performance in the first leg?
Yeah, it was very flat to say the least. I thought they were going to come out swinging. Their team is fantastic. And up front with Benzema and Vinny, they had so many opportunities, and these are players that are fantastic, and they score a lot of goals. So I was also quite shocked. But we spoke about this, I think, last week or the week before, with the way teams are changing the way they play because there's no away goal advantage anymore. So I think Real did try and basically sit back because it didn't matter if they scored or not. And like you said, they only lost 1-0, even though they didn't, like, it wasn't very exciting football. It's not that big of a deficit for them to be like extremely concerned.
For PSG, they suffered a shock 1-0 loss away to Nice, which was very surprising. And there's also a big concern, or there was a big concern, around Kylian Mbappe's status for this matchup. He picked up an injury, which was being circulated all over Twitter. It was Idrissa Gana Gueye who stepped on his foot. I think they were in a rondo and stepped on his foot, and Mbappe went down. Apparently, Idrissa Gana Gueye received a lot of messages on social media to the point where he had to cancel certain accounts. Not good for him, but Mbappe has traveled with the team to Spain, to the Bernabeu. He was training with the team, so he's expected to play. But I want to ask you this: for whatever reason, if he does miss out today, if he doesn't start or if he's on the bench, how much do you think that'll affect Real Madrid's game plan?
Massively. Who else is scoring right now for like
Right.
PSG? I think it's huge. But that whole injury thing was also bizarre because I saw it and I was like, you're fine. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, are you guys just trying to psych Madrid out? I was like, there's no way Mbappe is missing this game. There's
Yeah.
no, he would come on with a cast. Like, this is so important. And then, like you said, he traveled. So the whole situation was just really weird. But no, if he, wasn't playing, it would be an absolute advantage for Real Madrid.
Real could be missing Tony Cruz, so that's one of their big injury concerns. He could miss out. However, Spanish outlet Marca is reporting that he will start. So we will have to see when the lineups come out. They usually come out about an hour before the matchups, but
Mhm.
sometimes I've noticed Real Madrid tend to put their lineups out a couple hours early. I don't know if that's like a tactical thing. They want to put it out for PSG to potentially game plan against that lineup. I'm not sure, but make sure you keep an eye on that. Casemiro and Ferland Mendy are both suspended from this matchup. They picked up their third, I believe, yellow card in the first leg of this one. So for Real Madrid, I really liked them here, Sarah. 3 wins in a row after that loss to PSG. Very comfortable win over Real Sociedad at the weekend. 4-1, some fantastic goals in that. Benzema scoring again. Real seems to be clicking at the right time right now, about to take on PSG.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like after that loss they had in Paris that they kind of turned it around and they've won those 3 consecutive games.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned a few players, so we don't know about Cruz. Casemiro and Mendy are huge losses for this team. And I know Real Madrid is stacked, they have a solid bench. But when I was looking at these players, this to me, PSG need to be all over that. This if these 3 players were here, I'd probably say, you know what, Real's gonna win. These are 3 huge players, and honestly, I think PSG needs to use it to their advantage. They Real have definitely been looking better than PSG in the past few games, but I think when you're missing 3 out of your starting 11 and 3 solid midfielders and defenders, I don't know. I don't know. I think PSG could, if they decide to harness it, they could really use this.
How do you expect PSG to approach this game? Similar to how we saw Real in the first leg, or more attacking?
No, I think they're gonna have to come out swinging, and I think they're gonna have to try and score. I think both teams are gonna try and have to score first. The thing is, for Real wants to get that 1-0 deficit just out of the way immediately, back to neutral ground. PSG are gonna want to score first because they're gonna want to make that difference even larger than it already is. So I think it's gonna be like a very tight pressing first half, and it's gonna be all about who can score first. It's gonna change the whole game immediately.
Yeah, and for Mbappe, if he does start, he's going to want to get on the score sheet to show his potential new home crowd what he can possibly do. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Kicks Real Madrid out of the Champions League and gets transferred over in the next summer. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm all over Real Madrid here. I just think they're in such fantastic form. I'm not saying that shock defeat against Nice for PSG is the be all end all, but I mean, that's a huge hit to their confidence coming into such a big matchup against one of the best teams currently, one of the best informed teams in Europe. So there's a few ways you can tackle this game if you want to go from the Real Madrid side. Real Madrid draw no bet. If they draw, you get your money back minus 120. I can see this one potentially going into extra time. So if that draw hits, you get your money back. Real Madrid on the money line, plus 150 or greater. You can find better odds there if you think Real can pick up the win here. Real Madrid plus 215 to qualify. So no matter when they win, regulation, extra time, or penalties, you win your bet. And if you want to stay away from the winner's market completely, I think the over 2.5, I think it's around minus 150, could have gone up from by the time that this comes out. But I think it's good value. Like you mentioned, you see goals here. I do as well, because I think once the first goal goes in, then the game's going to light up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually stayed away from the winner's market with this one because
Yeah.
I think it go both ways. But I had the over 2.5, and I also have both teams to score because I'm expecting to see goals for sure as well.
So PSG, they failed to win their last four Champions League trips. Should we put any stock into that?
I mean, you could. I don't know. This team is constantly changing as well, though, right? Like I don't know. I don't even know how to like analyze that because I'm so frustrated with this team and these players. I mean, you could, right? But I also think there's like you said, Mbappe is playing at the Bernabeu, which is hopefully going to be his new home. Messi's coming back to a place that he hates and loves to win. Like, I think there's a few statistics that you have to take into account with this specific game.
Hmm. Okay, so here's some potential goal scoring props for anybody who wants to sprinkle a little bit of cash. Kylian Mbappe plus 120. I think that's pretty decent odds. Kareem Benzema minus 105. And Mr. Lionel Messi, in case you've ever heard of him, like Sarah just said, plus 145 to score a goal. If you can find Messi to score a free kick, I'm sure that's probably in like the plus 900 range. But if you want to sprinkle, go right ahead. I'm really looking forward to this game. One of the ties of the round of 16. But moving on from one competition to the other, it's the Champions League, now to the Europa League. Porto, my favorites to win the competition. I think I got them at plus 2,500. They're now plus 1,400 to win the whole thing. They're in the round of 16, plus 100 favorites against Lyon, plus 290. Speaking of Porto, unbeaten in all competitions since December. 15 wins, 3 draws. They dropped down, just a reminder, from the Champions League into the Europa League, and they came into this tie now against Lyon. I just feel at the moment Porto, one of maybe top 2, top 3 teams in this competition to go all the way.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think they're really playing some fantastic football. They're really dominant right now in this competition and of course in the Portuguese league. And they're just, demonstrating the skill that they have. They have these like ancient players, that we see like, what's his name? Oh my
Pepe.
god. Yeah, thank you so much, Pepe. But then we also see, like, I love Mehdi Taremi. Like, I'm so obsessed with this guy. He's so fun, exciting, crazy, like scoring golazos like no other. It's such a interesting team because they have, like both sides of the spectrum. But at the end of the day, they're really playing some great football. And yeah, for me, has Porto written all over it. Unfortunately for Leon.
Yeah, Lyon, they beat Lorient 4-1 away in the French league. Lorient near the bottom of the French league at the moment, but Lyon not the strongest team. I mean, they've brought in some players, one being Tanguy Ndombele, on loan from Spurs, who's was expected to come in and really help them, but he hasn't really kicked off at the moment. They topped, I should mention, the Europa League group, but that group had Rangers, Spartak Moscow, and Bromby taking on Porto. who's got this Champions League pedigree, a very good team, lots of quality, don't lose very often, can score goals, specifically at home. This is a really tough test for them. I see Porto winning this game and qualifying pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I'm nothing more to add.
So, how are you taking this game? Are you just going Porto straight up on the line?
I'm going Porto, but I think Leon's gonna get one in the back. I think they have a lot to prove. I don't think they're gonna win, but I'm taking both teams to score still.
Yeah, both teams to score over 2.5. You can get that
Mhm.
around plus 140. I'm keeping it simple, not complicating it. Give me Porto plus 100 on the line. Plus 100 at home, one of the best home teams in Europe. Give it to me. All right, to the final game we're going to talk about here in the Europa League. It's Real Betis against Eintracht Frankfurt. At the moment, Real Betis is, oh my goodness, I lost the odds, Sarah. It's here. Minus 110 favorites at home. Eintracht Frankfurt 20 plus 280. Betis, one of the surprises I feel of Europe this season, specifically in La Liga. I think this is another one for me where it's a home win.
Yeah, I have taken that as well. I mean, the thing is with Betis, maybe some people like haven't been paying attention to them as much, but as somebody who watches Spanish football, Betis is always a team that you are scared of. They are gonna come and they're gonna compete. And yeah, to me, they're just doing way more. They're a way better team right now than Frankfurt. You know, they're fifth in La Liga. Frankfurt's ninth. And I know people are going to say, oh, but they just lost to Atleti over the weekend. But they were just coming off that entire Copa del Rey race and they, won. They're going to the final against Valencia. So for me, that loss against Atleti, like, it was tough, but I think they were kind of coming out of like a completely different competition. And they're playing one of the best teams like in La Liga. So, I don't even consider that. But Frankfurt has they won, I think, against Berlin over the
Mhm.
weekend, but before that they were losing to Bayern, Cologne, Wolfsburg. Like I just don't think they're in the same level right now. I think Betis is just a much better team overall.
Yeah, let's not forget Betis did get through by beating Zenit St. Petersburg in the Europa League. 3-2 win in Russia after or drawing at home 0-0. But Frankfurt unbeaten in Europe this season and pretty good on the road. 6 wins in their last 10 away matches. Are we underestimating the German side here?
I don't know if I'm underestimating the German side or just knowing the, capability of the Spanish side.
Right.
I wouldn't want to put Frankfurt down at all, but I know what Betis are capable of, and they are such a good team. And I think it's more that I'm just looking at what they can do.
At the moment, Real Betis plus 1,600 to go all the way. Good value?
I mean, honestly, they're one of the better teams in the competition, in my opinion. Like if you wanted to just shoot your shot, it's not a bad shot to shoot.
A little sprinkle, sprinkle. If just to go over the odds quickly before we end the show, Barcelona favorites to win the Europa League plus 225, RB Leipzig plus 450, Sevilla plus 550, Atalanta surprisingly plus 800 to go all the way, West Ham plus 1400. I mentioned Porto 1400 as well, and Betis 16, Lyon 1800. Atalanta plus 800. I don't see it.
Yeah, no,
What
they
am I
were much
missing?
better at the start of the season, and I feel like they've kind of fallen off of it. They're still a great side, but
Yeah.
there's I think better sides.
Yeah, and Barca at the moment they have to be favorites. I mean, they're playing extremely well, and it looks like they're getting a new defender as well. Andreas Christensen looks like he's agreed to a deal to move from Chelsea to Barcelona. How do they keep doing it? They had no money. What now? They have money. They're signing everybody. There's a rumor
They're
about
it's
Messi
they're
potentially going back to Barca.
I heard Messi wants to come home. I'm like, "Come on in. Let's go. We'll
Yeah,
bring you right back." No, I think he's upset at PSG, and I don't blame him at all. But, from my understanding, like, also Coutinho, Aston Villa wants to buy him fully from that loan. So I think right now they're
that's
moving.
probably around 50 million.
Mhm. I think it was
Yeah.
40, but yeah, no, exactly. But that's the thing. They're just moving players left, right, and center. They're trying to sell anyone they can. They're taking a lot of free transfers right now. Like we don't have money. That is the truth. But every move right now is super, they're weird signings, but they're also very strategic because they're trying to get free agents or sell people that are on loan.
I wanted to talk about actually Messi quickly. I'm just thinking about right now. Thierry Henry did an interview, and he was talking about how nobody made mention to the emotional shock that Messi went through having to leave Barcelona. He was saying, you see at the press conference, his exit press conference, he was crying. He was extremely emotional because that was never supposed to happen in his mind. That he was never supposed to leave Barcelona. I think Barcelona never wanted him to leave. Obviously,
Yeah.
circumstances changed. They didn't have any money. They had to let him go. And he hasn't been in poor form. He just hasn't been in messy form. And I never thought about it. And I should have, looking back on it, the human side of things that happen, especially when you have a big move like that. He was
Yeah.
not only just a player for Barcelona, he was Barcelona. He owed everything to them. That was the team who brought them there, who took care of his medical bills, took care of his parents. And so, what I'm just trying to say is, I think we need to understand that a lot of these players are humans just like us, and they do have feelings and emotions, and that can play into what we see on the pitch.
No, 100%. Like it was a shock for him, his family. I was reading an interview. He told his kids they were leaving. They were, screaming, crying, so upset. Like it was his home. And it was it really made me almost like want to not be a Barca fan. Like that was the one thing because it was just like, how can you treat, and the thing is, we did it to so many players, but I think because Messi and the caliber he's held at is just, it was different, but they did it to Luis Suarez. They did it to Dani Alves. They've done it to so many players. And that's why that I'm so like, even though I don't know how I feel about Laporta, I'm so happy they kind of went through a change because it was disgraceful, honestly, as a club.
And on top of all that, one of his best friends has to retire from football. Sergio Aguero has a heart issue. He goes to Barcelona to play with Messi. Messi ends up leaving. Aguero has a health issue. So crazy times for Lionel Messi. But for Barca fans and for Messi, I would love to see that reunion. We saw the Ronaldo reunion and how much hype that got and how fantastic it was to see him there scoring in his first game. Imagine that at Camp Nou in Barcelona with Messi. I think that's times 10, and that's just great for football all around.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, look at that smile. Holy smokes. All right. This is the end of the show for Fast Money Football for Sarah Pararia. Make sure you follow her at Sarah Pararia. You can follow me on Twitter as well at the Real Bert V, and head over to parlay.tv for more parlay content. Good luck today, guys.